What is going on, YouTube fitness family? I got an exciting video for you today. I'm going to run you through my perfect shoulder workout. It's a shoulder workout I do all the time, and what we're gonna do is really focus on hitting all of the heads of our delt. We're gonna hit front delt, medial delt, and rear delt. The biggest focus is not gonna be what you may think. It's not gonna be pressing. It's gonna be a lot more raising variance, because one of the biggest things people make a mistake of is doing way too much pressing for their shoulders, and that's what we need to avoid. We want to create that 3D look, and that's going to be coming from raising. So hope you guys enjoy this workout. Make sure to hit that sub button. Without further ado, let's get it. Exercise numero uno, we are going to do on the cable machine. I prefer a narrow cable setup for this. So if you can see this, we got the Arsenal strength. We got kind of a narrow cage here, as opposed to, let's say, some of a universal machine where you have like the lat pulled out. It's a lot wider. If you have that vector force coming from so wide, it's going to kind of detract from the proper recruitment that we're trying to get here. So what I would like to see, if you have it possible, either the ones like this or the ones that have the arms, like you can, the cables that have the arms, you can put it down nice and narrow. What we're gonna do is crossover grip. So we're gonna grab left hand to right cable and vice versa. And we're gonna be on an incline bench. And we're gonna put this back to where we're not lying flat, but we're probably like 2 notches up, probably about 30 degrees on the incline. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna cross the hands just across from one another, and then we're gonna laterally raise here, squeeze, and then slow on that eccentric. And the reason that we are doing this as opposed to, let's say, standing or with a dumbbell is simply because of 2 factors. Number one is vector of force. That force curve is coming from across my body, and it's perfectly hitting that medial delt. I still have tension here because that vector force is coming from across, as opposed to a dumbbell, which is going straight through the floor. So I can be back at this angle. I'm perfectly matching the angle of the cables with my upper body. So see how the cables are at about a 30-degree angle off the floor, and also the bench. So I'm perfectly matching that cable angle with the angle of the bench and my upper body. The second major reason is control. So if I'm here, it's putting my delts on an island and disabling me from using any momentum, from using, let's say, my traps as much. I want to keep the shoulders down and back and raise to about shoulder height, maybe just higher. What I don't want to do is raise so high up that I start to shrug my shoulders that I take over with my traps. Other form cues is a slight elbow bend. By having a slight elbow bend instead of completely straight, it's gonna take the triceps and rear delts out of the equation. So if I'm here completely straight arm, obviously I'm gonna have to squeeze with my triceps, and it's gonna take a little impetus. What I wanna do is roll the elbows, bend them a little bit, roll the hands over the movement a little bit. That's gonna keep it all medial delt. And what we're gonna do here is I usually go for about 12 to 20 reps, but really focus on the eccentric. So you can see I'm coming up, squeezing, about a half-second isometric hold, and then slow on the negative, about 4 to 5 seconds on that negative. I probably have 3 more in me until about total failure. Slow on that eccentric, slight elbow bend, roll it all the way across. Ooh, and that burn is wild. Just for one set, my whole delt is fired up. And the reason for that is because, first of all, I'm using a lot of time under tension. I'm getting a ton of blood flow. I'm isolating my delts, so I'm not using a ton of momentum, I'm not letting it go in my traps. And also, the fact of the matter is, with this type of movement pattern, even though it's not quite as heavy, I'm really driving the impetus into my delts, and I don't have to worry about injury as much. So this is a great way to pre-exhaust the tissue before doing your pressing movements. So a lot of people start with presses, right? But you're cold, your strength is at the highest, so you're probably going to pick a weight that's probably gonna be the most likely to injure you at that time of the workout. Now, let's say we start to drive really good blood flow, drive a little fatigue, then we get to our pressing, and you don't have to push with as much weight to get as close to failure as you would maybe at the beginning of the workout. So all of these things are great factors. So I'm gonna hit this for 3, maybe 4 sets, depending on how I'm feeling, and then we'll move on to exercise number 2. Before I get to the second exercise, I just have to be like, can we just fucking appreciate the pump in the delts after one exercise? Not 2, not 30 minutes of training, 10 minutes max, 3 to 4 sets, crazy pump. So you don't need to be using like the heaviest weights in the gym to achieve a result. Like I was pushing those sets to pretty much failure They're very safe, crazy amount of blood flow. So now I'm just fucking ready to get into exercise number 2. All right, exercise number 2. We're gonna do an incline. We're gonna keep this right here. Sometimes efficiency is key. So we're gonna do, and you can superset these if you're short on time, the first exercise and the second exercise. What we're gonna do is more of a front delt impetus on this second movement pattern. So we're gonna do here, same idea. We're going to remove momentum from the equation, and we are going to make a perfect vector of force for that front delt, because that weight is now coming from behind us at the perfect angle, that same 30-degree angle that we had for that first exercise. We are going to raise up in front, squeeze, and then slowing it down, track it right down the bench, let it come out at the bottom, big stretch, raise, and squeeze, slowing it down. So obviously here, we are doing more front delt, same cue, slight elbow bend. We don't want to be completely straight in the arms, just very slight. We're talking like 175 degrees instead of 180 being completely straight arm. So we're gonna be here, raise to about chin height, slow on that eccentric, hold it, milk it, right down the bench, big stretch, open that delt up, drive, squeeze. We're gonna go for aim between 8 and 15 here, trying to go within that like 1 to 2 reps of failure. Oh shit, oh my God. Oh dude, the burn right now, it's like a 9.4 out of 10, crazy. And like, dude, it's 50 pounds each hand. One thing I'm gonna show you guys, I'm actually gonna reduce the weight by set. So one thing that a lot of people do, I think, is I must increase weight every set or else I'm not really doing anything, right? Wrong. What we're looking for is a number of things. One is proper motor recruitment, and number 2 is enough of a stimulatory response in order for us to drive hypertrophy. So we can't just rely on, let's say, perfect form, right? Because if I do perfect form with these with 5 pounds, I'm obviously not going to drive enough stimulus to induce hypertrophy. So it's a mixture of those 2 things. Really good motor recruitment in the tissue we're trying to target, mixed with enough stimulatory load, in this case, 50 pounds in each hand, dropping it down to 40. But as I progress, I get more fatigued, I'm less likely to have really good form with that weight. And my goal is not progressive overload. I'm not going to a fucking powerlifting competition and be like, I'm gonna do fucking incline bench front raises for 100 pounds in the competition. Like, no, doesn't exist for my sport. What you're trying to do is build enough muscle to make it look like you're strong. So the idea being, reduce the weight. If you feel like this form is gonna suffer, you're not gonna get that proper recruitment. Because I guarantee you with this 40 pounds, I'm probably gonna get even more of a response, gonna get closer to failure with proper recruitment on the second set than the first. So don't always feel like you need to go up in weight just because it's the second set, third set. A lot of times I do the opposite. I'll start at my highest weight and I'll drop as I go, especially for a smaller muscle group like shoulders. All right, exercise number 3, you're probably like, Eric, it's time for presses, right? Fuck no, bro. It's not time yet. Chill out. You need to get more fatigued before we start pressing. So we're gonna do some around the world raises. Literally low key, one of my favorite movement patterns for delts that I've ever done. I try to like keep it out of these like top shoulder videos, but it just like creeps its way back in because I love it so much. Uses almost all heads of the delt, other than, doesn't get as much rear, but it gets a ton of front and a ton of medial. So what we're gonna do is gonna be on an incline. We're gonna go slightly higher than we had, or a lot higher than we had the last movement. Because now we're using dumbbells, we're not using cables. We're gonna be closer to about a 60 to 70 degree angle on the bench. So a pretty steep incline. What we're gonna do, so we're gonna put the weights beside us like a suitcase, holding 2 suitcases. We're gonna raise up with the palms facing towards the side. As we raise, we're gonna turn the hands towards the opposite wall, so away from us. And then as we come down, we're gonna keep it wide, and then we're gonna rotate the hand slowly to the side, all the way down. Big stretch that medial delt up, and then we'll turn those hands up towards the opposite wall. So like I said, coming down, good control. Once you get to about shoulder height, then we're gonna rotate those hands down to the side. And what the reason for us going all the way over the top is a couple things. So we have very minimal tension here. So I really want to utilize the negative because I don't have much tension at the top, where I'm going to get a lot of the work on this exercise here. back behind me opening up, getting a lot of impetus to that front delt, and then as I rotate, it's gonna rotate into that medial delt towards the bottom of my movement pattern. Medial, 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 then it's gonna rotate into that front. No tension here, not much, because we're stacking the joint. That vector of force is gonna be hand through the shoulder, so I don't have much tension, but as I come away from the body and back, I'm gonna push a lot of that tension into that front delt. And as we talk about a lot in our other videos, when we get a lot of force in that stretch position, because as I come back here and I stretch the fuck out of that front delt under load, there's just so much stimulus happening in that stretch position. Plus, a movement pattern like this, I feel like keeps me really long and healthy because I'm back here. I'm really opening up that chest, opening up that front delt, and then rotating through and getting into that medial delt towards the bottom of the rep. Oh my God. Oh. And that's what we call, boys and girls, sensational.
Sensational.
Even at my size, the training tends to be almost therapeutic in the sense of a lot of times when people train, especially as they get bigger and lift heavier loads and hold more muscle, they tend to be like, oh, fuck it, everything hurts. Oh, my fucking shoulders hurt, my knees hurt, my back hurts, my elbows hurt. My training is a way to like keep my body as healthy as possible because I'm working in these lengthened positions so much. I don't do really any mobility work, no stretching. And I think it's just a testament to the way I train. You can tell I train hard, but it's also very methodical, it's very thought out. And I think it's gonna be a way I can train for a very long time, hopefully, knock on wood. But you still have 25s here. I'm trying to make 25s feel like they're 100s. That's always the goal. You can take weight and make it feel heavy and create the stimulus necessary. Obviously, within reason. I can't grab 5s and drive enough response, but 25s, 30s, instead of grabbing 60s and doing sloppy, cheat lateral raises, I'm gonna get more stimulus in the desired muscle group. I have less chance of tweaking something in my neck and my traps when I'm doing cheat reps. So guys, lighten up the load, really focus on good range of motion. It will pay dividends. I know that it's gonna take a little bit of ego check to go from, let's say you're doing lateral raises with 30s, you have to do this exercise with 12 and a half. Do it, trust me. The weight will come with time. And at the end of the day, like, run your own race. Don't give a fuck about what anybody else thinks about how weight you're lifting. Like, you're doing this for you, not for anybody else. Don't worry about the weight. The weight will come. Focus on form, keeping yourself healthy, and keeping yourself in this for the long term. All right, exercise number 4. We are going to go cross-body single arm, reverse basically flies. So these, we're gonna still maintain that slight elbow bend. We're going to lock our hand in. I like to do this on like a more of the cable where I can actually push my hand into it where the cable isn't impeding me. So I'm gonna be here. I'm gonna turn basically away from it because it's gonna expose that rear delt. And then I'm going to fly across body. So see how I turn almost away from the machine? I'm gonna fly across to about this, hits about basically eye level, and then I'm gonna come across. Don't sleep on that stretch, guys. Make sure you come across and hit a really good stretch to open up that rear delt. So stretch, come across, and squeeze. So you can see it's coming across at an angle, slightly from high to low. So we don't wanna go so high to low. So if you're shorter than me, don't put this at the top position. You want this to be coming across more than it is down. Because if we go too far down, it's gonna turn it right into a lat exercise. So we gotta come cross face and keep it in that rear delt. So slight elbow bend, squeeze on that eccentric, big stretch across, drive and squeeze. Hitting 12 to 15 here. Ugh. The reason I like these a little more than, let's say, machine fly, one of the big benefits is single arm, got to focus on one rear delt at a time. Second, I also can move ergonomically, so I can also move away, expose that rear delt more, and then kind of move ergonomically with the pattern so I can keep the impetus in the rear delt. So with a machine fly, I'm stuck here. I can only be here. With this, I can come across, get even more stretch, move my chest up and through the movement at the end to get even that little bit extra squeeze and contraction. So, all right, final exercise. You're like, finally, Eric gets to some pressing. So, of course, there's gonna be a twist on it, right? You can't just do some normal basic bench presses. We are fatigued, the delts Front, medial, rear are all torched. So what I'm gonna do is a reverse facing shoulder press. So you can do this on any machine. I have a plate loaded, but you can do this if you just have a regular like pin loaded shoulder press. You just face towards the pad instead of away. That's gonna give us a little bit more range of motion, a little bit more ergonomic movement pattern as we press through. So what I do, come underneath. I'm gonna push my chest up and through. I'm gonna get a big stretch behind at the bottom of my rep, drive up and through. And by coming down and getting a bigger stretch, pushing the chest up towards the ceiling, I'm gonna get even more stretch through that medial and front delt. Rear delt's gonna be pretty much deactivated on a pressing exercise, so we don't have to worry as much about that, but big eccentric, big stretch to the bottom, and then push through. Where our delts are going to be most exposed to hypertrophy is at the bottom of the rep, so we really want to milk that stretch position and then drive out. So we're not as worried about getting that top end strength and trying to press, 100, 120 pounds at each hand. We want to really focus on that stretch, drive through, and squeeze the top. Try to go for anywhere between 12 and 20 on these. Oh, man. But like I said, one of the biggest benefits of not putting our back in the pad. As you can see, I can stick the chest through at the top of the rep and really lock it in on those delts, get a really good negative, and keep it out of the triceps as much as possible. This is one of my favorite movement patterns. Like I said, you can do it with a plate loaded, you can do it with a pin loaded, but I'll do probably 4 sets here. Like I said, anywhere just that 12 to 20 rep range. You guys can push down into that, let's say 8 reps towards the very end if you want to do that and focus more on strength. But for me, 12 is probably the lowest I'll get, just for safety reasons. But you can see I can't do as much weight. Probably, if I were to do this exercise first, probably could do this with 3 plates pretty easily. But because I'm so fatigued, I can only do this with a plate and a quarter, and it still feels really hard, and I'm pushing close to failure. But it's much safer than me pressing 3 plates for a ton of reasons. If your goal is strength, sure. Start with your strength focused exercises. If your goal is hypertrophy, push some of your more dangerous exercises that need a lot more blood flow towards the end of your workout. You might not be able to lift as much, but you're gonna get just as much motor recruitment, just as much stimulus as that if you were to use heavier weight at the beginning of the workout. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. Remember to like, subscribe. I appreciate and love all of you. Comment below what you guys want to see more of, and I'll see you on the next video.